I'm here at the board share now, and we're ready to make the cases for the black albums. But before I begin, I would like to say a thank you to all of the people who have sent me, tips in the past, few months. It's been really appreciated, and also let you know, you new people who are watching me, that if you would like to tip the tutor, you can do this to my PayPal account. This is colesage@earthlink.net. Anyway, let's get on with the book. So we have a rather thick binding board now. This is Davy binding board. And one of the first things I do with this, because once you cut this down, you sometimes have a difficult time figuring out which way the grain is going, is I take a pencil and just draw lines. These boards are manufactured running long ways, like this. So generally the two sides here are parallel, and if there's anything that's uneven, it's usually at the short side of the board. So the first thing we're going to do after putting the grain lines on is to trim off the short side, trim off a short side. And then I'm going to turn it clockwise into the blade so that I can put the cut edge against the square edge. And I'm going to trim this side. Now I can turn it still clockwise again, and I will get the book. And I'm going to put it onto the board like this. And I'm going to set it so that the spine corner is just about 3/8 of an inch or a quarter of an inch, 3/8 of an inch off of the from the spine to the board. Like this. Don't know whether you can see that yet. I'll just turn it over once I cut it. And then I'm going to take my pencil, and at the foredge, I'm going to give it a space for the square of the boards, and do the same thing at the tail of the book. I'm going to have to cut this a little shorter first. Too many plants in the wintertime in the house. So, we'll cut the first one. I'm going to set my square right here. And since we're doing two books, I need another one. That. Then I will cut the short edge. One book. And the second book. So at this point, I'm going to take the board and put it onto the book like it's going to be when the book is finished. Setting the square. This is called the square of the boards. So you have the lip, around the book. And you can see that it fits on the spine like this. That looks like it's about 3/8 to 1/2 inch, from the actual edge of the book. This is to give your joint enough room so that the book won't wear or put a lot of stress onto a small part of the fabric. So once I have one board on, I'll put the second board on like this because we need to make a gauge. And I'm going to take a piece of paper holding the book together like this and just crease it. With my thumbnail against the board. Then I'll take one of these scraps here and put the corner of the boards on here. Mark that. And then cut it. And this will give us the space between the boards when we go to make the case. Because we'll put it on the fabric like that with this space in between, like that, and we'll know that the case will fit the book. Now we're going to make the cases. Here's the book, the boards, my gauge, and the fabric. This is a paper-backed linen fabric. It may be some linen and cotton called Canapetta, which you can get at Tallis online. So I'm going to take the boards and set them 3/4 of an inch from the edge of the fabric here. Put the gauge in and 3/4 of an inch from this edge here. Then I'm going to take my scissors and cut a line here, just a little line, about 3/4 or an inch, from the edge of the board. And the same thing here. Okay. Now I'm going to take this to the board shear to cut it because it'll be a lot easier to do it that way. Okay, so now I have the fabrics. Just to make a test again here. Everything seems to be all right. Doesn't matter if they're a little bit larger, it will be fine. The other thing I have to do now is cut some lining material. And I'm going to cut this first to match the height of the gauge. And then I want this to overlap about 3/4 of an inch on each side here, or like maybe 2 centimeters. And I'll cut 2 of these. And this piece of paper is used to strengthen the joints around the spine as well, to prevent excess, or wear at the edges of the boards. So I'll roll this one up for the moment, get it out of the way. But it's not going to stay there. There. And since this is a large piece of fabric, what I'm going to do is glue out the boards. I should say one other thing is like the pencil lines on the boards here actually help me keep this straight as to, you know, which end is up, especially when the boards themselves are somewhat square. So okay, first board, and then I'll put this in place here. Then I'll take the gauge and put that in there and glue up the second board. Then I put this right up, matching the top of the gauge here, so it keeps everything straight. And we'll glue out the lining, like this. Okay. Now we'll put the lining in right to match the heads of the boards. And with my folder, I'm going to push this right down and against the edge so it stands up, the paper stands up. Then I'll take my finger and lay this down. Onto the boards. Now in commercial bindings, what they will do for lining the spines is they'll probably put just a single piece of paper in here, leaving bare cloth in between the joints. And if you've ever had to do repairs, you'll notice that that's the first place that the binding starts to wear. So now I'll take the scissors and I'm going to cut the corners off. Okay. And these corners are cut off at about 1.5 boards thicknesses from the corner itself. And while I'm looking at this, I think I want to even up the edges so it has like a more of an even turning in. So I'm going to cut a little guide board here. And with my Olfa knife, just give it a little bit of a trim to make it a little neater. And there we go. So now we're ready to turn the edges. When you're making a case, you always want to turn the head and the tail first. So. Give just a little touch to the corners on the inside because that's where we're going to fold these things in. Now I will press these in here. You notice I'm not rubbing, I'm only pressing. These in place. And then I'll use the folder to set it all in place as the glue dries. And see, I've got the edge of the board over the edge of the table so I can get all the way around with my hand. And then we're going to take these and press the corners in like this and down with the top of my fingernails to set those in. Again, just press. You press in against the edge of the board with the fabric so it brings a little fold in, you know, like this. And then you press it down with the tops of your fingernails, or you can just use a folder. Now I'll glue the four edges. And the same motion, rolling the edge of the fabric over the edge of the board and onto the inside of the board. Okay, now while this is still damp, I'm going to put the book in place like this. You see the nice square around there. And wrap this in place around the book. So now we have the book in place. And I'll take the folder and crease this edge here to give it a nice little groove. Okay, and now you can see what it looks like with the matching headband inside. And we'll be ready to case these in once the case is dry, which I'll probably do tomorrow. I'm going to let this rest over here on a board. And we'll do the other one. We'll do the other case. So, we have the fabric here. I'll put the boards in place. We'll probably give this one a little bit of a trim too when it comes time. So I'm going to glue this board out. And set the board in place. Press it down, the gauge in place, and we'll glue out the next board. Line this up with the head of the gauge, like that, and then put the board in place. Lift the gauge out. It would be a good idea for you just to sort of check to make sure everything is down on this side, and give this a nice rub. Depends on your fabric. Sometimes the fabrics are different, and sometimes they may trap a little more air underneath. But this Canopetta seems to be fairly good. Not too many problems there. This is from pages from one of my smaller glue pads. So I can open this up now and glue out the lining. And we'll set this in at the head here. Rub it down in the center. And then push it right up against the board so the paper stands up, and lay it down. Do the same thing on this side. And then lay the paper down. I'm going to give this one a little trim too, like I did on the other one. So this will be, pretty quick. That's pretty good there, but it's not straight. Just work our way around here. And the last edge here. And then again, I'm going to cut the corners about 1.5 board thickness away. And we're ready to turn the edges now. So I'm pulling the board, so that it's off the edge of the table. And then take the roller right around, touch the corner. To the next edge. Touch the corner. And this edge has developed some tacks, so I'll bring this around. And push this all in place. And get the center here. Caught a little bit of air on that one. Now I'll fix the corners here by pressing down against the edge of the board and then flattening it. Same thing over here. Gluing out the four edges. And there we are. And we grab the second book, put it into the case. Close it here. And put a little joint in. So now these are finished, and well, they're not finished. We have to case them in, and then they're going to be guarded. I'm going to be cutting out every other page, so there'll be room for photographs in this album. So this is set for this. I'll put it under boards for tonight till it dries, and then we'll case it in tomorrow.